Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. I'm your host, Darshan Kulkarni. It's my mission to help you trust the product you depend on. So, as you know, I'm a pharmacist, I'm an attorney, and I advise companies with FDA regulated products. So, if you think about drugs, wonder about devices, or obsess over pharmacy, this is the podcast for you. I do have to emphasize this is not legal advice, it's not clinical advice, and it's not marketing advice. It's just general, overall educational discussions. I do these podcasts because they're a lot of fun. I find myself learning something new each time. I don't often get a chance to talk to someone as smart as my guest today, so I learn something, especially when I talk to guests like my guest today. So it'd be nice to know if someone's listening. If you like what you hear, please leave a comment, please subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, please share, and please reach out to my guest if you think she might be able to help. If you want to find me, you can always reach me on Darshan Talks on Twitter, or just go to our website at darshantalks.com. Our podcast today is about leadership. Our podcast today is about commercialization. Our podcast today is about how do you lead a company towards the future in a time when everything's changed. So if you are a leader, if you are trying to wade through the changes that are happening today, in terms of COVID, in terms of working from home, in terms of vision planning, you probably start caring about today's discussion. So our guest today is the CEO, and I want to get this right, CEO at CMI Media Group, because I know that they're very specific about how they want that phrase. So the CEO at CMI Media Group, and she is an incredible speaker. We've had her as a guest more than once on our talk. So our guest for today is Susan Dorfman. How are you, Susan?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to talk to you. By the way, am I wrong? It's supposed to be Dr. Susan Dorfman, isn't it?
No, yeah, Susan is great. Doctor was my mother. That was, because that was culturally that had to happen, but Susan is good.
Fair enough. So let's talk a little bit about your role. And we've had this discussion in two different formats before, but one of the things you are talking about in your role as CEO is sort of looking at the future. So talk to me a little bit about, first of all, what do you think are the core requirements to be a good CEO?
Oh gosh, if you ever get that answer, please let me know as well. I think if anyone says, that they have that answer, they probably wouldn't necessarily be telling you. I don't know if it would be truthful. I think it would be more case specific. So I think first and foremost, there are things that I think make people good people, and let's maybe just start with that. Being open, being honest, being receptive are important qualities, I think, to any role. To CEO in particular, I'm not judging myself necessarily. I'd rather have my team do that. But from the CEOs that I've ever worked for, it's a balance of patience with rigor. It's a balance of openness with direction. It's a balance of kindness with authority. Respect for others, and kind of credibility, and being able to show that an individual deserves and actually earns respect as well. So not demands that respect. Those are, in my opinion, really, really strong CEOs. They're smart. They are smart, and they are also wise. And someone once asked me, do you know the difference between smart people and wise people? I'm going to ask you the same. Do you know the difference between smart people and wise people?
I feel like these are those riddles where you're like, what is the magic way you say this? This is smart people and wise people. I think smart people know the information. Wise people know when to ask for the information.
So that is so close to that answer. You are so wise to know that. So as I was growing kind of through my career, someone had asked me that. Someone that was a mentor to me had asked me that. And I said, well, what is the difference? And the person told me, smart people use their brains to get things done. wise people rely on smart people. And I would say that for a CEO, one of the most important things is to be that wise person, is not to feel like they are the only one that can steer the ship, is to bring in really, really smart people who are also wise and allow them to do their thing and build a community and have that community of smart and wise people trickle down all the way to the entire organization. Because the only if you look at the CEO as the only leader in the company, you'll likely find a CEO who is, the only person in the company. There is nobody else. They report to themselves. They are everything. It's an N of one. When you run a company, the larger it is, the more leaders you actually need to be able to diffuse things from the top down, from the middle down, from the bottom up. So every person in some ways needs to be a leader.
It's so interesting you say that, but now I'm wondering about the C-suite in general. When people who are, as you are wise, you're depending on people who are smart. Is smart a nice way of saying subject matter expert?
There's also a sense of emotional intelligence that comes with that. So, subject matter experts can be really good at their job. They may not necessarily always be really good on the emotional intelligence side. So, of course, as leaders that are working with them or who they're working for, or kind of even counterparting with, there's an opportunity to build that emotional intelligence into that role, because when you lead people, you need both. You need to have that sense of every individual, right? Because it's not just about the masses; it's about every individual. We're unique. So finding the uniqueness. Some of the best people developers that I've seen are really, really strong on the emotional intelligence side, and don't approach it in a cookie cutter kind of, here it is for everyone. This is what everyone should know. It's really about finding the uniqueness of each individual that works for you. And that's why it's also important to have a direct report team that is manageable, because you do have to give back. You do have to invest in learning, what the individual is like. They have to learn what you're like, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, help them develop some of those weaknesses, but also be okay with the fact that, hey, some of us have weaknesses that may never turn into strengths. So how do they not become impediments and actually serve us better? And how do our expectations shape
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. This was the perfect time to mention, and you mentioned this a few seconds ago, you're looking right now for people for a variety of roles.
Yes, we are hiring. Absolutely. So if anyone out there is listening and, hey, if you want to make an impact, if you want to work in healthcare, as healthcare communicators, we're doing really important work. We're educating people on providing them information and hopefully getting them one step closer to living healthier and better lives. So media, analytics, data, whatever your interests are, creative, talk to us, please.
So let's talk a little bit about how you choose the people that you're going to bring. And obviously, there are people who go, I just don't want to deal with people, and working from home has been the greatest blessing I've had because I don't have to do that. And then there are people going, I really need to talk to people, and everything in between. And when you're trying to develop this vision for what the next 5 years at CMI Media Group looks like, how do you go, these are the types of people we want, these are the people whose emotional intelligence is the type we need right now, and this is what we're going to offer them to make sure that they feel like this is the right home for them?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think, for anyone that feels that they're talking to people less in this environment, you can hear my voice is not in its best state. I think for the 18 plus months that I've been working remotely with the rest of my team, I have spoken more on Zoom than I think I have in my entire life. When I finish work at night and I turn off my computer, and I sit with my husband watching Netflix, and he wants to talk, I just need 5 minutes. I am talked out. So, I think Zoom has ultimately Zoom, all of the Teams, everything that people are using, Skype, to communicate with one another. I do feel like there's a reinvention of a norm. We're not going back to the past, nor should we want to. We need to strive for a better future. And personally, I am a big champion of individualization, of not having a persona, I'll call it, of a type, but rather individualization in people who want to come in and make a difference, in people who are okay to experiment, people who are not afraid to fail, people who are, I would say, really important to me, more of a cultural add than necessarily wanting to, and being comfortable in just being a cultural fit. And I think the only requirement that I would say is really important to me are people who are good at heart and people who are genuinely nice. Stinkers don't tend to last. I think I said it last time. They just tend to last in the company. It's not who we want to be. We're a decent, good group of people. We support one another. We help one another. There are no layers in our organization, even if there are titles. I will go and staple things for people if that's what they need me to do. We try not to have that type of hierarchy. Anyone at any level is part of the family. We just don't think like that. So that's the only thing. If you're a good person with a good heart, you want to do the right thing, you care about people. There's clearly a mission that we believe in. So we are a mission-driven agency. That's important to us. But if you feel like you can create change, if you're not afraid to learn, if you're not afraid to be agile, because we believe in charting out new courses that have never been done. And you know what? With that, they're learnings. They're not failures. They're learnings. They're pivots along the way. So if you're okay with that, if you're okay with pivoting, if you're okay with thinking out of the box, if you're okay with being doers, thinkers, there's so many different places within CMI Media Group and Compass that people can start and ultimately elevate in.
So you talked about pivoting. I have just a leadership question to ask you about this, which is, when should you not pivot? And the reason I ask that question is, I've been in several situations where we're like, well, we're responding to the information coming in, and that's great, except sometimes with myself and sometimes with my marketing team. My marketing team comes back to me and goes, can you stop pivoting? Like, we're trying to go after a goal, and we keep pivoting. So how do you advise your team at, what state of course for right now?
Yep. So I think it's key performance indicators. I'll call it that. If you have a pathway that you're trying to get to, if you have a goal that you're trying to reach, if you don't have measurables during each phase and kind of seeing, where you're headed, pivots can be small. Pivots can also be what, Pharma is famous for saying, fail fast. Don't fail fast. You don't fail fast, right? If you're failing fast, you're failing yourself and you're failing your organization. That is, to me, one of the, I can't get that concept. It's learn, assess, or I should say assess, learn, and adjust if you need to do those small pivots. But genuinely, if you define a pathway, and in that pathway, here's where we are now, here's where we want to go, you have kind of moments of truth where you pause and you say, hey, how are we doing? Did we achieve? Because we had some measurables, will be accomplished when kind of thinking, which is my chairman's thinking that I loved and kind of adapted in my own style. How do we know that we've gotten there? And where are we? And if we can measure those things, then the marketing teams that tell you that, or, say that, they're right. Because, we didn't get to a place that we wanted to go where our KPIs right. Did we learn something from it? Like shifting completely shifting, I would say, is very different from walking away. And I think maybe some of the stuff that you're relaying to me is people are saying, like, why are we walking away from this? Meaning pivoting, and let's drop what we're doing here. When I say pivoting, that's not at all what I mean. The agility is to head down a path, and to know that while two rights don't make a wrong, or two rights don't make a left, two lefts do make a right. So there you go. I'm very directionally challenged. So I'll pivot every single day. Pivoted yesterday, leaving Newark, leaving PAC with the help of a police officer because I got incredibly lost. But I pivot all the time when it comes to my driving skills. I'm still headed down a path. I'm still headed home. I'm not going to a different destination because I didn't get there. So pivoting is being able to decide on your clear path and continue to go there. But also know that if the path itself was the wrong path, there comes a time where you need to say, wrong path. We didn't do necessarily, we didn't achieve what we thought we would achieve. And rather than continuing to invest in that path, walk away. So there are times and moments where that is a requirement.
So it's interesting you say that. And I love the idea of you saying, don't fail fast. Because I find that to be such an interesting concept. Obviously, I come at it from a regulatory compliance perspective, but the big thing and legal perspective, the big thing that always strikes me is tech is all about fail fast. And pharma thinks that they need to be more like tech. I mean, let's be honest, from a valuation standpoint, technology companies came out of nowhere and eclipsed pharma companies. So I can see the beauty of saying fail fast, but you're saying, no, there's a reason we're different. But have you dealt with health tech companies versus pharma companies, and what is their differences in thought process, and how does CMI Media Group and Compass deal with that?
So for anyone who knows my background, I do not come from the media world. So I came to CMI at one point being a client, another point being a partner, but I come from the tech and data world. So it's interesting that you asked that. And when we first kind of came to the realization of, this is our brand, this is who we are, and defining what that is, 10, almost 11 years ago, we kind of promoted the concept of agile marketing. No one ever talked about that. And the reason we did that was coming from the tech world, agile development. That is not a fail fast environment. That is you have a pathway that you want to achieve. You have a roadmap, right? So your roadmap, and the roadmap as you're building it out, does it continuous ability to deliver components of the technology as opposed to waiting, right? So it's a continuous process. It's an agile process. You launch, you learn, you fix, and then you continue to go. It's not a fail fast process. I don't know where the concept of fail fast came from. But first of all, you never fail, right? You learn. If you're smart, you learn. If you're not smart, you fail. And failure is, okay, like failed, never touching that again. That's a bad way of thinking, right? That's we've always done it this way because, or we tried it once and it didn't work. That's a mentality that we need to stop. Like, we can't be thinking that, especially in an agile world. So we shouldn't be thinking of the word fail. We should be thinking about, a concept of learning and adjusting from what we did. So I think that's a really important, really, really important piece for us to consider. Um, in the tech world too, there is this concept of a roadmap, right? On the marketing side, you know, do we have a roadmap, right? We don't think about a roadmap. So, when you have a roadmap, then you can schedule certain releases, and then you can fit new components in there based on client asks, right? It has to fit into the roadmap. So I think there's a lot of learning that we can take from the technology side. We just need to interpret it in the right way. Oh, Darshan, I don't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself so you don't have to hear it. So as you can tell, an individual neither one of us know, Carly Cooper, says that you never fail, you learn. So thank you, Carly. I do have to add though. So you're talking about building this roadmap. You're talking about going and focusing and finding the right goal, the KPIs, if you will. Let's talk a little bit about using that information to build a vision. Now, first of all, let's talk about a group like CMI and CMI Group. And when you're trying to take a company like that and take it to the next level, when do you start building the vision for the next year? And do you build it year by year, or do you build it decade at a time?
So we do have a 5-year plan, but as we know, technology and media shift dramatically. And then there are cultural events, things that happen that you don't anticipate. We're living through one right now. So again, the concept of shifting, the concept of pivoting, the concept of instead of piloting, I hate that word too, charting out new paths and tweaking what you're doing is really, really important. So our 5-year plan has shifted in some ways. There were things that probably 2 years ago that we anticipated, going into from a futuristic perspective that have been reprioritized. It doesn't mean that, we're walking away from some things, but, prioritizations changed. Our clients' needs have changed. Anticipating what the market is going to need becomes incredibly important. But it's also, when you invest in the future, which is something that we always do, you have to see it and project it. And you have to invest in it early. So that way you're not coming to clients with concepts, you're coming to them with kind of, proven solutions, even chartering with them some things together as you build for that future. So some of the things I would say, 70, if you can get to 60 to 70% of your future vision being realized, you're a god, right? And I think that's an important thing from a leadership perspective to also know and be an investor in. As CEO, and of course with my chairman, we're investors in a lot of things that the really smart and wise people that work with us come and share and, come and tell us. And we sit and we strategize and we plan for them. And every year we kind of assess, where are we in this? How do we pivot? Where do we pivot? What do we need to add? What are some of the learnings that we had? We're also huge believers and users of a concept called OKRs, objectives and key results. So we live and die by that every year. And sometimes they're continuous, they're rolling, that it doesn't have to change every year, but the measurement does have to be continuous. Every year we assess them, especially as as they're part of our 5-year plan. And then we can prioritize, we can shift. Even throughout the year, we can reprioritize certain things, move them up, certain things, move them down. In terms of their importance to the organization and the kinds of things that we and everyone else in the agency need to work towards. These are also things that are not part of the day-to-day job, right? These are things that we are trying to achieve as an ad in an organization such as ours, which, for us is really important. not always to be the first, but to be the best at whatever it is that we do, and certainly to think ahead and anticipate the needs of our industry, of our clients, of the patients and healthcare professionals that they serve, and be able to invest in some of those things early, assess them often, and adjust.
I'm going to ask you a question because you said you're from the tech world, and you're talking about vision planning. You're talking about don't necessarily be the first, be the best. And I've never asked anyone this question. I'm curious, as a CEO, how you see this. Would you rather model CMI Media Group on Apple, Google, or Microsoft?
I'd probably take a little bit of each, and if we can create an acronym, AppGuma, maybe we'll call it that, and come up with a whole new concept. I think that, each of them have done something really incredible. Some of them, one I think was, they were not necessarily the first in the space, but they've refined and became certainly in some areas, if not all, the best in the space. So I think there's lots of learnings. I think what I'd love for CMI Media Group is to be the best for the people that are part of our organization, part of our agency, the customers that we serve, the partners that we work with. And at the end of the day, if we can improve one life, 2 lives, 1,000 lives, 1,000,000 lives, whatever that number is, if we can get them information quick enough to know that a treatment exists, if we can educate one physician, if we can make impact like that, then you know what? I can go home. I can stay home. I don't have to go home. I can walk out into that living room and, and look at my husband. I can look at my son, both of whom are healthcare professionals. And I can say, you know what, we did our part too.
That's awesome. So we've basically run out of time, but I'm going to ask you, or really make a comment, because this is perfect for the next conversation we're going to have, which is you talk about AppGumi, as you just put it, but one of the things AppGumi is facing right now is the challenge of having the appropriate cultural fit, and that's coming from inside, where they're saying, yes, we want you to be the best group out there. We want you to feel fulfilled, and now the groups are turning against the company, and they're saying, we expect XYZ from you to support our diversity and inclusion goals. And the company is saying, well, wait a second, that's not what we meant. We're doing what we can, but that's not what we meant. So I don't need a comment right now, but I want to tease it for the next time, which is, how does, it's obviously a West Coast, they tend to be a little bit more, from a legal perspective, at least I can say this, California is known to be just sort of out there from a liberal perspective, but the goals themselves aren't necessarily bad. So how do you, as a CEO, try to make sure that you meet those goals and welcome people, which I think is really important to you, at the same time balancing the need of the company itself? And you don't necessarily have to answer right now, but we can talk about it next time. It's a nice tease as well.
And I'll throw something out there, even for the right now, for anyone who has that question, because it is a really important question. We firmly believe inside, and that is part of a culture that I think came from the very inception of the company, that we are family. And, in any family, good, bad, or indifferent, there is, and hopefully this is the good family, there is this concept from within. So first and foremost, when you care about people, genuinely care about people, they will become part of the solution. So 2 things have to happen, as in any relationship. It's a give and take, right? When one gives and one takes, that is never a good thing. And in the corporate world, if you have people that care about one another, from the top or from the bottom up, from the top down, and every which way. There's a mutual respect and mutual benefit. And in CMI Media Group, from an agency perspective, we do believe in the cultural ad. We do believe in diversity and inclusion. We don't just say that. We have an organization that lives and breathes it every day. And our people are part of the ERGs that come to us as leadership. I serve as an executive sponsor of the LGBTQ ERG group. And, I'm with them. We are doing things. We have every executive leader is part of an ERG that we support. We talk about these things. We don't just talk about them, we bring them to life. So for any agency company that is out there, talk the talk and walk the walk. For any employee that is out there, please always know that it is a give and take, like in any relationship that you may have with friends, with partners, spouses, family members. There's a mutual respect and give and take. And when you stop thinking about taking and when you are truly about giving, that's when magic happens.
Sorry, I know this was supposed to be my last question, but I can't not ask this question because you said it. You said that CMI Media Group is a family. Do you believe in the Michael Corleone way of running a family, which is, I forget, is it Fredo, never go against the family?
Gosh, no, that was, I love that movie. I do. I love that movie. No, I don't think so. I come from a very tight-knit family. We're kooky, but we really love each other. So no. You would hope that, as a family, you're doing right by each other and, being able to see someone's perspective. From that sense, I think, oh gosh, now you brought me back to, I'm actually seeing him touch from his face. Not harsh. No, everything is done with kindness. And, I have to say that really, we have our chairman, who's the founder, Stan Woodland, I can't say enough about him, is the kindest, most generous human being there is. And I think when you see that, I think everyone wants to emulate that and be that. And I think that's really who we are. So no Michael Corleone, no Corleone family. I don't even have a show to compare to. Maybe Schitt's Creek. I mean, they ended up they're like in that whole environment. If you watch the show throughout time, you kind of see that they're really good people there, and everyone kind of truly cares about one another. So yeah.
So are you the I forget the?
I'm not Moira. I'm definitely not Moira. No.
I loved her. But anyways, as you know, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. The first question, based on what we discussed, what is something you'd like to ask the audience?
Probably what is your current biggest challenge right now? And what are you, after 18 months and now what seems like back to lockdown again, what are you facing? What are your, internal kind of challenges, and what are you thinking about from a workforce perspective? Back in office for a certain number of days. We are completely remote at this point, and that's kind of our new way of working model. Does that help? Does that hurt? We're always trying to balance what is right for our people, what is right out there. So would love to know what everyone is thinking is in that respect.
I usually answer the question first so that other people can think about it and respond. I think my biggest thing personally that I'm working through is trying to get my word out more and do it in a more succinct way. And the one thing it keeps coming back to each time, and every time I'm hoping there's a different answer, but it's not, is I need to have clearer goals. So for me, that is my biggest challenge. In terms of working from home, I think it's been a blessing. However, I'm seeing more and more clients actually start hinting at, can we talk in person, which is happening a little bit more. I think you can build certain connections online, but I think there will need to be, at least from a sales and marketing front, at least from a sales front, I guess, some level of contact that'll need to happen. I think people are starved a little bit from a connection perspective, and we saw that over the course of the last 3-4 months. So I think that was really interesting. Even the introverts I knew were going, yeah, I need to talk to someone. So that became really interesting, because that would be my answer. My second question to you: what is something you've learned over the last month?
That no matter how much I think I know, there's always something new that causes me to pause things and say, gosh, you really don't know anything. So that I think for me personally, that we all need to be continuous learners, never think that we know everything that there is to know.
Very cool. And last question: what made you happy in the last week?
Oh my God, yesterday. So talk about personal connection. I'm a huge fanatic of Freddie Mercury. And I went to the New Jersey PAC and I went to see a Freddie Mercury, a Queen concert. And I'm still singing. And I did post on Facebook and also on Instagram some of the videos from there. Didn't realize that I was singing so loud. I'm a horrible singer. But yeah, I'm like still so like wound up. That made me super happy, being around people I love, and certainly being around that music totally made probably my year.
That's amazing. I love it. I do have to ask you the next time, the role of Facebook in communicating, or the role of social media in communicating internally. It's not a conversation I've had before, so I think that'd be a fun conversation to have.
Sure.
So again, I do want to emphasize, you can reach Susan on LinkedIn at Susan Dorfman, and or you can go to CMI Media Group and go to their website there, and you can apply for jobs. There are a variety of ones she's looking for. The core goal is to not be a stinker, because stinkers don't last. And here's the bad news: if you're looking to fail fast, that's not what she's looking for. So don't fail fast. But that would be the goal. And Susan, this was wonderful having you. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back on again.
Definitely.